All right, guys, so I'm excited to do this. I haven't tested him out yet, but we have a side-by-side comparison of the old chicken right here and the new chicken on the other side. Now, for this damage comparison, I will be, in fact, on the test server. Let me add this image. There we go, test server. Plus, I will be wasting my actual server resources to a point as well, so please drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you have the chicken. Hopefully, we've done him some justice with these new changes. So in comparison with the stats, I'm not sure why exactly the new version's a little bit better than the old version. Everything's exactly the same. Maybe I glyphed a piece by accident, but either way, the defense is the only thing that's different. We have 64-27 defense on the new version, 63-83 on the old version, 239 speed, equal, over crit rate capped. Let's not talk about that. 342 crit damage, and no accuracy on either version. The new version, that's fine. The old version, you probably would have built accuracy. But either way, let's jump into some content. We're going to go to dungeons on both accounts. We're going to go over to Dragon Stage 6 Hard, because why not waste some energy for this? We're going to remove my actual team, and we're going to throw in the chicken. All right, so 20 energy down the drain. Both dungeons, let's make sure it's not starting on auto. It might be starting on auto. Let me turn it off if it is, to make sure we're good. There we go. It is starting on auto. We don't want that to happen. The test server, I can do as many tests as I want, but on the live servers, I don't want to do that. So, stone skin on both of them. Whoa, 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 chicken. Slow down there, buddy. What did you do? You jumped straight in there with those turns. Thank goodness that was on the test server, and I have unlimited resources. Let's go for a replay here. All right, so both chickens are equal now. The new version of it actually has a pretty unique thing. This A3 skill is going to place increased defense, revive on death, plus an extra turn. Unlike the old version, where there's no extra turn. So I want to buff with increased defense. I don't get a turn after that. I have to, the enemy takes a turn, or if I outspeed them, I go 2-1. And then we'll use the A2 ability. Unfortunately, the old version is not getting the extra turn from the A3 skill. The new version is. So whenever I do this, I'm not able to actually showcase it because the enemies get provoked and I can't really show the damage very good. So let's just use Siffy on both of them and then compare these skills. So the A3 on both of them, the new version, is now giving me an extra turn as well. So you don't have to run it alongside a champion like Siffy. The old version, you do have to do that because you will not have that extra turn. So you won't have the increased defense able to swap into the second form. So with the old version, let's see what the A2 does with the increased defense applied. A2 goes out, boom. We hit for 48,000. Some champions go ahead and end battle, back out of this. Neither one of these champions have much of their masteries done. The new version hits for, all right, let's back out. We hit for 363,000 versus 267. Okay, that's a pretty good difference so far. We don't need to test the A1 ability from that first form. I don't want to keep wasting energy on the main server, so let's just go to the second form here. Their A1 abilities are both exactly the same. The damage multipliers have changed. The A2 abilities are different though. So the new version is going to be an AoE attack. Before attacking, places a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. This cannot be resisted, meaning you don't need accuracy. The damage increases by 10% for each enemy under decreased defense debuff. Also steals 20% of the target's turn meter from each enemy. So let's go ahead and do the A2 on the first screen. Decreased defense was applied to everybody. Awesome. And then we'll do the A2 on the second screen. Decreased defense also applied to everybody. The HP looks pretty similar, to be honest. Let's go ahead and back out and see what the damage was. Looked pretty close though. 1,074,000. Okay. So a little bit of a difference. Not really sure how much of a damage boost that A2 ability actually had, to be honest. Maybe we try it again, but to be honest, let's go ahead and try for that A3 skill. So we're going to do the A2, buff up. The big difference is that we don't need accuracy now. So in the arena, it's just always going to place the decreased defense, whereas the old version was not really going to land at decreased defense. Also, there's another significant change, and that is now his passive skill doesn't need you to have decreased defense for this to actually work. Now, he's just immune to all this crowd control effects, which is crazy. But then we have the A3 skill. So the A3 skill is going to be now, the new version, attacks all enemies, ignores 20% of each target's defense if they have no buffs, ignores block damage as well, so enemy sig friends, well, it's going to be a little bit rough for them. Damage increases by 15% for each buff on each target. These are going to have no buffs though. Decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. That is awesome as well, though that does need accuracy, playing off of that form 1, that provoke, so not a big deal, but I wouldn't build him for accuracy. So we're going to be doing pretty good. Let's see. This defense ignore is just if they have no buffs. Pretty sweet. And if they do have buffs, you're boosting your damage. So let's see. The A3 for the screen 1, 64, 67. A3 for screen 2. Dang, looks like they boosted the damage there a decent amount. I mean, just that ignore defense is pretty massive. Probably. Okay, so we go from 304,000 to 480,000. That seems like a pretty good difference. What is that? A 33%? Actually, no, even a higher boost. Almost a 50% boost in damage, isn't it? Let's go ahead and try this one more time, but the A1 skill to see what he does. So far, this seems to be pretty solid as far as the damage being dealt. So we'll swap forms. I'm interested in this A1 skill. This A1 skill is a single target hit, extra hit on enemies with decreased defense. Obviously, going to be much stronger now than before because decreased defense isn't going to be resisted. On the Cold Heart, 55,000. On the Cold Heart, we have 73,000. Okay. So it looks like it's pretty close to a 50% increase on a lot of these skills, doesn't it? If that's the case, that's pretty massive. So 50% would have actually, that's pretty close, more like 40, 45. There's going to be some variance because you can basically go plus or minus, I believe, 10% on the damage being dealt. But it looks like about a 50% boost just from the skills I noticed. So we're going to get rid of the old version. We're just going to do the new version. This is where it's most important. And this is what I'm going to be going off of. So let's go ahead, jump in here. Look at GALLEUS' masters. We're going to fill out some. I'm going down this one just for the, mainly for the buff extension on that increased defense because I'm not going to be using him most likely with an increased defense champion. So I want to make sure his increased defense is going to be extended. And then, of course, we're going to go for Helm Smasher. And then we're going to pick up the full HP stuff. Yeah. This is good enough. This is good enough. We'll extend the buff of the duration of debuffs. And let's jump in here. So remember, now he's going to have the same functionality basically on the first form. Though the skill 3 is going to be an extra turn now, which is honestly just massive by itself. That extra turn opens him up to being able to actually do this, swap forms, actually nuke. But you are going to have to keep him alive, so Stone Skin is going to be pretty important unless you're just going really fast. This passive skill is going to reflect damage. It's going to heal him, same as before. But now the second form is just so much stronger. But let's see if it actually brings the power that we need for it to do good in the arena. So let's go ahead and jump in here to do a test. We're going to do GALLEUS, GALLEUS, and Fabian, basically just to have a chance of removing their buffs, have a chance to get the decreased defense applied, and hopefully do some really good damage. So A3 from Fabian. Hopefully we don't get any resist. So we got everything through basically. Now for the chicken, we're going to go ahead and increase defense. And now we can swap forms. I kind of wish these were both on a 3-turn buff duration because then we could swap forms and still have it hanging around. But this is pretty daggone powerful compared to what it used to be especially. So we're going to go ahead and do the A2. The A2 before attacking places the decreased defense. So this should hit pretty, oh my gosh. He obliterated them. That was crazy damage. And we have increased, Revive on Death. That's from the GALLEUS. I was wondering where that was coming from, but it's from the GALLEUS. So now, going to GALLEUS's A3 skill, the A2 is the one that's stealing turn meter, right? Yeah. The A3, no increased defense. Okay, we didn't do enough to kill him. He was under petrification, so it's going to reduce the damage we're actually dealing by quite a bit. But if we go to the A2 here, he's stealing turn meter, placing decreased defense, 111,000 damage. And that is enough to wipe out basically any team. It is only a single hit skill though, so a lot of the mythical champions he may not be able to do the greatest against, but he is knocking most of these champs down, it seems. So we lock everybody out. The Warlord does his stuff. Now, the slight downside to this is going to be the Marius will catch me when I go to swap forms here. Okay, so we swap forms. The Marius will try to enfeeble me. He did get the enfeeble off. This will place decreased defense on him. Even with the enfeeble, it should, right? Yeah, we still get the decreased defense. So even if we have enfeeble, we'll still get the decreased defense, which is really nice because they have no buffs. They have block actives now. I don't think it's still turn meter though, right? Dang. So they still have all their shenanigans going on. This is going to have a chance to remove the buffs from them. Whoa. Okay, it actually removes it before we even attack. That was not how I read that. Why was it so far in the text description if that happens early? So attacks all enemies. This I was thinking would be the first part. Ignores defense if they have, oh, ignores block damage. Okay, yeah. That's great. Damage increases by 15% for each buff on each target. Dang, okay, so just ignores that block damage. Completely forgot about that. But man, this is going to be a very, very different experience with this champion. I mean, there's not a lot of defense nukers that are very good that you can use because having a defense buffing champion is kind of difficult to come by, to be honest. So go ahead and swap forms. It can't be resisted, but it can be blocked. This A3 skill could reduce some durations. We're probably not going to kill him here. I'd be surprised if we did. We'll go ahead and use the A2. They have the increased defense. They have all their buffs up, so not a whole lot I can do there. He'll help me be speed tuned, and he won't require me to not do Fabian's lockout. So there we go. Good. Good. Lockout. We got it that time. Everybody hit fine. And then the chicken can go. So even for the first form, I wonder if we could just do some good stuff on that first form. Being Force Affinity is actually really cool because there's a lot of dominant Magic Affinity champions that now we don't have to worry about. So this A2 is going to place Unkillable as well. Hits pretty hard. Like, we're wiping everybody with that skill. The nice thing is we're bringing our own increased defense. I want to see how he does against the enemy Siegfried, because having that Unkillable plus that reflect damage, he becomes a champion who now Siegfried can't really deal with super easily necessarily. What I would do here is do the AoE A2 skill. We do have to be careful with the whole Marius thing. So in this case, we just don't even do the increased defense. So increased defense is still going to be valuable to bring if you're using him. We don't necessarily need it though. But if we're just going to swap into the other form, we will need it, right? We'll do this unless you're bringing like a block debuff champion. But that Enfeeble is pretty nasty. Okay, he's petrified, so we're good. We'll do the increased defense. We'll swap forms. This will probably just kill a nice though, to be honest. Okay, it does. He swaps forms. He has enough HP where the or enough champions over there where that HP burn's not really doing much. But with the new bird, the GALLEUS, we can do this A1 and it should double hit on the nice. Let's see. Okay, so we already have that skill off cooldown again because his passive, if it kills somebody, also randomly resets the cooldown of this champion's skill, which is also pretty crazy. So we'll hit him once, boom, double zap just on him. So it does get through. So if you had a way to place, if you didn't kill the enemy nice, or sorry, yeah, the enemy nice in that A2 when you switch forms, you could kill him with that A1 next time. Though you'll probably kill him most of the time because it hits pretty hard. That is enough of the arena testing. He can definitely smack pretty hard. Let's go ahead and jump into some Hydra and see how he can do over there. I also kind of want to test him out some dungeons to see if he can solo content and how well he can do it. But as far as what relic to use, I'm going to throw Cat's Gaze on him just for some extra defense ignore. As for the blessing for Hydra, we'll go ahead and go Nature's Wrath because he will be placing that decreased defense, AoE. So as for Hydra, he's actually going to be immune to fear anyways. The Krisk is actually going to be pretty solid here. Lydia isn't required because we do already have him being placed in the decreased defense consistently. No accuracy needed is going to be good. Basically, we don't really need the Lydia. We could use a different champion, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and just keep her in here. I just want to see what he hits for. On Nightmare Hydra, hopefully we're hitting for like some million damage hits. That'd be pretty awesome to see. This A2 opening, 280 across the board. That's pretty nice. Of course, if we had an ally attack champion, he could be doing really good as well. I bet this A1 ability is going to hit pretty good. Especially since it's going to hit the one target, hit it again, and hit everything else as well, like a Mashald skill. So ally attack champions, Mikage's, Cardiel are going to be very powerful. He's never going to be controlled. No fear, no provoke, nothing like that. So always consistent damage. That didn't do that much, honestly. 150,000 across the board. We had no increased defense. Now we do have increased defense back from the Siphi. No decreased defense or weakened from the, or on the Hydra heads, unfortunately. Let's see if Lydia places them. Okay, he places it. 156,000 with no decreased defense or weaken. Compared to Geralt doing a good chunk AoE per head. All right, let's see if Lydia gets it up here. Decreased defense plus weaken, please. Okay, goes for that A2 again. 280 across the board. Some good stuff. We almost killed ourselves from that Head of Wrath reflect damage over there on the side. It's definitely pretty close. And now this A1, boom, 211, zaps himself. It's okay, Sify will pick him right back up. No problem. We do have Merciless gear this time, so we will be proccing the extra turn. Oh no, the cooldown resets. We could do 9-piece Merciless, give him a chance at the extra turns. My 9-piece Merciless gear just isn't that great for him, I don't believe, so I'm not going to do that at the moment. But let's see what he does now. 373 on that decapitated head. Not a very difficult champion to fit into Hydra either. Form 1 being easier than Form 2, so I'll try a version with him in Form 1 as well. But if we're doing this, let's see what he hits for now. Actually, let's see. So this A2 skill will place the decreased defense everywhere. Dang! 1,000,000 damage across the board. That is huge damage. What does this A1 hit for, I wonder? And then, of course, things like Slayer set. Okay, Garrel's obviously popping off with some huge damage as well. Things like Slayer set could do really good potentially. Though that A1 is probably still a single target, just like Mashald's is. But for his A1 skill, hitting over here, boom, 261, and then 319. It's pretty good as well. Not insanely crazy, but that 1,000,000 damage from that A2 skill is quite huge. So then we're increased speed. We're going to go ahead and let's see what we got going on next. This A2, let's see what it does. 900,000, 754. He's hitting good. And this Merciless gear I have on him isn't even like top tier stuff. Let's go ahead and back out of this and see kind of what his damage is like in Form 1. Okay, 10 million damage. I mean, it's good. The issue with Form 2 is you don't really bring a ton of other stuff besides just the damage. So if you can justify him, he can be great for you. But you may need more stuff, which is where you're going to be looking at Form 1. Form 1 is going to bring the counterattack, which could be nasty if it's stolen. He could also be a mischief tank. The increased defense, revival, and death. So this time we're just going to have him stay in that Form 1. This is, in my opinion, the more beneficial form for Hydra. If it can hit good, hey, it's even better. He's going to do consistent increased defense. He's going to do a provoke as well. Let's go ahead and run. Who do I want to put in here? Duchess is a good one. Krisk isn't really needed anymore. I would love a champion to give me increased accuracy. If we had a Mithrala for the aura, that could be good. Do that. And then his accuracy is going to be not quite high enough yet. Oh, 310. Actually, he's doing pretty good. Yeah, so let's see how this looks. So the decreased speed is not going to be AoE, unfortunately. It'd be really nice if it was AoE, but unfortunately it's not. The provoke is going to be good. This decreased speed is just single target. Counterattacks, though, with the decreased speed. So you could put him in like resistance stuff. The AoE skill, I mean, he's still hitting for 100,000 plus. That's pretty solid. We missed the provoke on the Head of Decay because he is Force Affinity, so you do have to take that in consideration. So there will be some resets. But now you actually have a good provoke champion who brings increased defense plus a revival and death on everybody, which is pretty cool. Not a whole lot of champions bring revival and death that you can really justify. Though, if he was bringing a decreased speed AoE on the A1, he'd be top tier for Hydra for sure. So you still have to fit the decreased speed in here. It may be a little bit difficult for you. Let's see if we can actually land it on this Head of Decay. The provoke, that is. But he will be cycling through 2 turns provoke as well. That's massive. Most champions is just for 1 turn. And he's going to be cycling through that skill very, very fast, especially in a Merciless set. He's going to always have provoke up, especially in the affinities where he's not weak affinity versus decay. So increased defense should be up a good chunk of the time. Sorry, not increased defense. Well, yeah, increased defense and revival and death. He's not immune to provoke on that first form, unfortunately. So he will be getting the provokes and everything like that. The provokes and the fears and all that kind of shenanigans that you don't really want. But since that provoke is for 2 turns, it's going to be okay. He's going to be able to keep it under control. He should be back around to that A3 skill now. There we go. And then the AoE A1, or sorry, A2. 2-turn provoke again. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. And then if we look at him, if he ever takes another turn here, Let's see what kind of cooldown he has left on his skill. Of course, he's a mythical. It's going to be a little difficult to book him out. But I do believe that if the books are lowering cooldowns or changing buff and debuff chances to place, it's definitely worth booking for things like this. Okay, so we have one turn that we have to do something else. So one turn of using the A1. So if you need a champion bringing increased defense, revival, and death, plus provoke, unkillable in himself could be a negative. Unkillable plus counterattack, because if you have no way to get that off, then the Hydra heads could take it and spread it ahead of Mischief. So you could use him as a Mischief tank or use somebody else as a Mischief tank. He would be a good Mischief tank because the unkillable counterattack on himself is very solid. But he does nothing that turn, obviously. Gets back around to the A3. A3, A2. Let's see what the A2 does once the heads are knocked down. So if I can get Geralt to go in and kill everything, or kill something. I want to see what kind of damage they do against one of these heads, basically. What kind of numbers is he putting up? Okay. Geralt does a little bit. Not quite enough, though. We need a little bit more, Geralt. We need a little bit more there from you. Good. So then Lydia hopefully can put the decreased defense and weaken up right here. We do need her with this version of him, of course. All right. So now he's going to go A3 into A2. Reapplying decreased defense to everybody. If he hits for like 600,000, I'd be pretty happy with that. 582. And then the 101, what was that from? I'm not for sure what the 101,000 was from. Either way, he did decent damage. Mostly his utility there that he's bringing. Places an AoE attack. I'm not sure why he did 2 hits there. So we're going to try this real quickly. He is in Stone Skin again, but we're going to test this, his damage versus Newt's damage. And since he's giving himself, or giving everybody increased defense, he's giving, well, of course, Newt included. I want to see what the damage is, how comparable it is. Now, I opened up with his A2 there. I should have actually just did the A3. Oh, it doesn't really matter because the boss is stripping everything anyways. But I want to see how good his damage could be if he's going to be counterattacking with that A1 skill and constantly doing max HP hits. So we didn't quite get a turn there. We do get the revival and death off that time. He does A1. He won't be counterattacking yet. Newt obviously is doing good damage, 45, 500,000, all kind of good stuff. We should be getting the A2 up here in just a moment. Go back to form 1 with Arabeus. There we go. The unkillable, the counterattack is up for him. So when the AoE comes out, he'll jump in there and do some damage to the boss. Not going to be nearly as consistent as Newt's damage, though, because we're going to get 65 hits basically total. But it's adding some damage that is going to complement a champion like Newt for sure. Overall, the new changes to GALLEUS, I think, are very solid. I think the champion is far better than he was before. I believe the second form hits pretty daggone hard. I think he's going to have good Chimera uses potentially. The counterattacking damage is going to be a nice addition, but I don't think it's something you could base your whole team around because you don't counterattack enough to make it actually make sense and to be worth it, I don't believe. But the whole just buffing up, swapping forms is just so good. Being able to place that increased defense on himself and then just swap forms and nuke, so powerful. I want to see what it does here if I get a turn before Marius maybe. Okay, strip the Marius. Nope, just kidding. Don't strip the Marius. He gets his turn. We buff up. Now, it's going to be a little bit sketchy if we switch here and get enfeebled. So let's just use the A2. Even the A2 in that first form hits enough to actually kill the enemy. Doesn't place the decreased defense, but it still hits enough. And of course, if you have Marius, you can just use the Marius. That's fine. But either way, guys, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. GALLEUS, glad to see you actually getting some gameplay eventually. Thank you all, and I'll catch you in the next one.